right. We are on Taf Mempava and Base. Oma Base. Yeah.
Yes.
I'm going to start with the top of the page. We just did a few lines. No point. Klal basei prapalos asei. The klal is an asei, and the prat is an los asei. Now again, remember, just to reiterate for the umpteenth time, but it's not talking about the general klal prat principle, rather the more obscure principle of kol davar sheyotz min klal lamed lo lamed al atzmo yotza lamed al klal kulo yotza. Anything which left the klal doesn't come to teach just about itself, but comes to teach us something about the klal in general, about the about the entire general principle, right? Milsa Rabbi Lezer Amar klal pratu. Rabbi Lezer holds that when the klal is stated in a positive, the general statement is positive, and the prat, the specific statement, is a negative, then it still is learned as a klal prat. Rabbi Yochanan argues. Dam Rabbi Elazar, where do we see this? Rabbi Elazar said, "Lokin lacharish b'shvius." One gets flogged if one plows during Shemitah. Rabbi Yochanan ain't looking at lacharish b'shvius. Rabbi Yochanan says you cannot get flogged for plowing during Shemitah. Umatame the Rabbi Elazar. What's this logic, Rabbi Elazar? I'll tell you what. There's a klalu prat, the general statement, and a specification. The shavsa ored Shabbos Lashem klal. It says the land should rest unto God. That's a klal. That's a general statement. Sadcha lo sizro karmcha lo sizmor. It says neither shall you plant your land nor prune your vineyard. That's a prat. That's a specification. Hazerav azomir. The planting and the pruning. They're also part of the general statement. Why were they singled out? Lucky Shalein, to draw a parallel to them. To tell you, just like planting and pruning, are unique and similar to each other in that their work, which has to do with the land and with the ground and with the trees. So too, the only thing which is prohibited during Shemitah is something which is done in the land and in a tree. Now, however, what's done in the land and in a tree also? Plowing. So therefore I say that anything which is done in the land and the tree falls into this prohibition of not to do zera and not to do zimur, not to plant and not to prune, because plowing is similar to that. Now, Rabbi Yochanan, what does Rabbi Yochanan do with this? Why does Rabbi Yochanan learn this klalu prat? So says Gemara, shnei dvarim, because it's two things. It's both zera and zimur, right? Rabbi Yochanan says when two things are separated from the klal and made into a prat, when two things are part of this specification, we cannot derive from them chiluk malachos. We cannot derive that there's separate prohibitions for each one of the areas which I transgress. In other words, I'd have to bring multiple korbanos or get multiple floggings, or whatever the case may be. So Taka asks Rabbi Lezer chokin. Doesn't Rabbi Lezer hold that there's a problem in using this prat in order to make a chalukah, in order to divide up? Islay lach lokein el chokin. No, he does. He holds that when you have two scenarios in the specification, like here, then the taka cannot use it to be cholek, and therefore, no matter how many melachos do during Shemitah, how many malchus do you get? Only one. But he does hold the lamid malamdin. He does hold that it can't teach us. And what does it teach us? It teaches us that other types of land activity are prohibited besides zera and zimur. They are just an indication of what is prohibited, and they tell us that there are other things prohibited, not necessarily, not at all, that we're going to get separate malchus for each one. So it says more, okay, let's turn the table back on Rabbi Yochanan.
So what would Rabbi Lezer do? He says ain't chokim.
Ain't chokim, but they're malamed.
But they are malamed.
What is it, malamed charisha? That's what we learned out from there, because that's similar.
Both agree on
No. That's what I was about to ask. Wait a minute. Rabbi Yochanan said you are allowed to plow during Shemitah. Frag the Gemara. Verlees Rabbi Yochanan Melamdin. What happened to at least it should be Melamed. Exactly what you just said, right? No, does not. Wrong. Shanya he. This is different. As we stated at the top of the page, sheklau ba'aseu prat below sasei. When the cloud, the general statement is made as a positive, and the specification is made as a negative. We cannot learn from one on the other, right? Ve'ein asei melamid alo sasei, ve'ein lo sasei melamid al asei. It doesn't work. Alright, so what does Rabbi Lezer hold?
Have we had this concept before?
Absolutely not. Absolutely not. Right. Rabbi Lezer said, Vasei melamed alo sasei. Now, this is Yerushalmi, so whatever things say, they mean exactly the opposite. So what it means here is that when you have an asay, we can learn out something concerning it from a lo sasei, which is what we do here, because the asay is the general statement, and the lo sasei is the specification. So we can learn out something about the general statement from the specification, right?
The assay of resting the land is really comprised of many lo saseis.
We'll get to that too. Okay? Now, boy, you got a Yerushalmi Neshama here. Okay? Vasei melamid al lo sasei, ve'ein lo sasei melamid al asei. Okay, so you can learn what it means. Again, as I said, since Yerushalmi, it means exactly the opposite of what it says. It means when you have a lo sasei, it can teach you about an asei. When you have an asay, can't teach you anything about lo sasei. And there's of course a logic to that, because when we talk about punishments in the Torah, what has punishments? Lo saseis. Asays have no punishments. So asays are not as significant as lo saseis. So lo sasei can teach you something about an asay. Asay can teach you nothing about lo sasei. Okay. So Rabbi I'll dictate now. Here's the typo. Al daiti to Rabbi Elazar. According to Rabbi Elazar, it says Rabbi Yochanan. It should be al daiti to Rabbi Elazar. According to Rabbi Elazar, nicha, I understand. Mutter lach b'borosich, you can dig holes, caverns, and dugouts during Shemitah. Why is that? Because what's the only thing which is also during Shemitah? Work. Right. Which includes plowing, but it doesn't include making holes. Al daiti to Rabbi Yochanan. According to Rabbi Yochanan, can you dig holes? Why not? It says because maybe we don't learn the Isser from Zerah and Zimur, right? Oh, we don't learn the Isser, we don't learn the Heter either. If you learn like Rabbi Lezer, so what does V'shav Sar Shabbos L'Shem mean? What does it mean the land should rest? Whatever the details say. What do the details say? Don't plow, don't harvest, and don't plant, and don't prune. So that means that's be work which is beneficial to the land, such as harvesting, planting, pruning, or plowing. Those are prohibited. But digging holes is not beneficial to the land, so you'd be allowed to dig holes on Shemitah. But according to Rabbi Yochanan, the prat has nothing to do with the cloud. The specification doesn't teach you anything about the general statement. So the general statement remains in all of its pristine glory. What does it say? The land must rest. So maybe the land's got to rest not just from plowing and pruning, and from pruning and planting. Maybe it's got to rest from digging holes. So that's he says shame lonely in Isser. Just like it doesn't teach about the Isser. Can't let you have to learn about the Heter anymore either. So Rabbi Bakatinga. To the growth of the land. That's what I mean. To the growth. Yeah, but that's what he said. So Rabbi Lezer said, "Avodah shebaretz uvailon." So which word does something for the land and for the tree. In really means in the land for the tree. That's to answer your question. Okay. Amray Bakatinga. Time with Rabbi Yochanan. What's the logic of Rabbi Yochanan? Sheishanim tizra. It says 6 years you should plant, which we learn, which from this we deduce v'lo b'shvis, not during Shemitah. Sheishanim tizmor karmecha. You can prune for 6 years, but not during Shemitah. And here's another typo according to Reb Chaim Kanievsky. Kol lo sasei shubah mikoach asei aseu. Anytime it says a lo sasei in the form of an asei, it's an asei. So what does it say here? It says 6 years you should plant. So this is right, but not during Shemitah. 6 years you should prune, but not during Shemitah. This is Rabbi Yochanan's prat. This is his specification. He couldn't use Sod Cholo sees Rava Karma Cholo sees more, because that's a negative, and you can't use a specification for a positive general statement. But here it's got a specification which is stated in the positive: 6 years plant, 6 years prune, which indicates, of course, not to do it during the 7th year. But that even though it indicates not to do it, and now we have the principle of any time it makes a statement not to do something in a positive vein, by saying do this, we imply don't do that, that's not considered to be a true lav. So therefore, Rabbi Yochanan can say, I also have a prat. I have a specification. This lava bomi klal aseh asehu, this prohibition which is derived from the mitzvah aseh has the status of mitzvah aseh, and therefore this is the specification on the mitzvah aseh of the Shav Zorat Shabbos Lashem. So I come to the same conclusion as Rabbi Yochanan, as Rabbi Lezer. Fine, we're very good. Over Baseh. So what happens to Rabbi Yochanan if you plow during Shemitah? Do you transgress the mitzvah aseh? A lav you don't, because there's no lav which encompasses charisha, there's no klal prat, right? But what about do you transgress
Then a person doesn't have the right to use
the mitzvah aseh of a Shav Zorat Shabbos Lashem? Do you transgress that? So it says more Rabbi Yesimar filu aseh ein bo. No, it's not even a transgression mitzvah aseh. Not even that. Rabbi Yirmi Omer over baseh. Rabbi Yirmi said you do transgress mitzvah aseh of a Shav Zorat Shabbos Lashem. Ask the Gemara Take, that makes sense. What does Rabbi Yossi do with that which it says the Shav Zorat Shabbos Lashem? What does he do with that? Right? That seems to be a mitzvah aseh. Right? Says the Gemara, Inyan lo saseh sheba. It means no. The Gemara answers that it's only it means on whatever there's a lav. So Rabbi Yossi tax on the mitzvah aseh too, but it doesn't teach us anything vis-a-vis charisha. Plowing still remains not a lav and not an aseh. Falls in neither category. Okay. Yochel you looking out Tosefis. There's a Mishnah Moed Cotton. This is a quote. To get Malchus on the tacked on thing to Shemitah, that which is tacked on to Shemitah. So what is the thing which is tacked on for Shemitah? Rabbi Yochanan Pater Mesnisa. Rabbi Yochanan explained this Mishnah as Yochel you looking Ayidei Charisha B'Shvius. You get the Mishnah is asking whether you get the Malchus and that which is added on to Shemitah. What's added on? Added on qualitatively. The adding on of Charisha, which is not also Minat Torah. Rabbi Lezer Patala. Rabbi Lezer holds that Charisha is the Raisa. Patala. He explains that Mazdisa, that Mishnah, or that Brisa in Moed Katan, that Yochel you liken al Isra Shnei Prakim Yishonim. The question is not on. Whether you get Malchus on plowing, that can't be the question, because he obviously do get Malchus on plowing. Rather, according to him, the question is, do you get Malchus on whatever work you do in the Tosefah Shemitah, in the time before Shemitah, when you already are supposed to start refraining from Malacha? Do you get Malchus for not having refrained at that time? Okay, Tavim Mem Zayin Alf. Is Tani Sheishonin Tizra Sodecha v'Sheishonin Tizmor Kamecha. There's some who learn that the prat is 6 years you should plant and 6 years you should prune. These tiny others who learn that what's the prat? Sodcha lo tizra. Do not plant your field. V'karmecha lo tizmor, and do not prune your vineyard. So man damar sheishonin tizra sodecha v'sheishonin tizmor karmecha. He who says that the prat is a positive. The 6 years and the 6 years, that's Messiah Rabbi Yochanan. That's like Rabbi Yochanan says, if the general statement of Shav Zorat is a positive, the prat also has to be a positive. Man damar, and he who said that the prat is Sodcha lo tizra v'karmecha lo tizmor, do not plant and do not prune. Messiah Rabbi Lezer, proof Rabbi Lezer, again, because Rabbi Lezer is the one who says that There's one that says that a prat can even be a negative statement, doesn't have to be a positive statement. Okay? Masisa Pliga Rabbi Lezer. The Mishnah argues Rabbi Lezer, the following Mishnah, following Brisa actually. He's shomer below. It says this we did have the Bavli. He's shomer below saseh. Anytime it says in Torah, be careful. That's a low saseh. It's a command to abstain. If you don't abstain, you get flogged. If you don't abstain, you get flogged. So to pen, the word pen appears in Torah, indicates a low saseh, it indicates a negative commandment. And you don't abstain, you get flogged. What's my place? Because of it says, thank you. B'sham talel losecha. There you should bring up your karbonos. B'sham taseh, and there you should do them. Sham taleh. There you should do that. Sham you should bring up zu aliyah. That's bringing up the karbonos to Yerushalmi itself, the pilgrimage. B'sham taseh, and they should make them areizu shchito zrika. That's going on the slaughter and the sprinkling of the libations. Mal yashubasei. Just like aliyah, to bring up the karbanos to Yerushalmi is a mitzvah asay. Harei ze below sasei. There's also lav on it. What's the lav? He doesn't bring it down in the Gemara, but it says hisham elcha pentaleo losecha. Be careful lest you bring karbanos outside Yerushalmi. So it says bring all your karbanos to Yerushalmi, to the Beis HaMikdash. Then it says hishamer, be careful lest you not bring your karbanos to Yerushalmi. Okay, there's a flip side of it. So so to shchita and zrika which are ba'asei, you below sasei. There should also be a low sasei. Now,
yeah, but that's understood. You know, it has to be done in the Beis HaMikdash. It can't be chutz.
What?
Chutz l'mekom.
No.
What below sasei be? That you're not allowed to do the shchita.
Yeah, I know. I didn't say, but I stopped it. I read it choppily. So let me explain it again. Let me go back a couple lines. Where it says the citation from Dvarim Yud Beis in Torah. Okay? See, if it says Sham Taleh L'Sech V'Sham Taseh. V'Sham Taleh Zu Aliyah bring up to Yerushalmi. V'Sham Taseh Zu Shchita V'Zrika. It says shechted and throw the blood. Now all these are mitzvahs asay. Right? But now we're going to start a new drasha. Mal Yeshiva Aseh Rebi Lo Saseh. I'll show you that bringing up to Yerushalmi is an asay which also has a lo saseh attached to it. Av Shchita Zrika. Therefore, so too, the slaughter and throwing the blood, she'im ba'aseh, where there's a mitzvah aseh, below saseh, so there's also a low saseh on that. What's the gzeira shava? The gzeira shava is, it says by them aseh, okay? Sham ta'aseh, it says maisa. So we learn gzeira shava, maisa, which tells us that in both cases you have a low saseh. Okay? You below saseh. So begin to see. Now a question like this. The only reason why this works is because it says Shom Taleh v'Shom Taseh. The only reason to make this parallel is because it says in the same pasuk, there you go up and there you will make. For not to have drawn a linkage between using the words Asiya and Aliyah and Asiya interchangeably in two different places. So if not for that, Ein Asay Mlamid Alo Saseh. The Asay would not have taught us anything on Lo Saseh. And the lo saseh, neither of it would have taught us anything. In other words, would I just have had the mitzvah being a karbanos to Yerushalmi to the Beis HaMikdash, and on the other hand, I would have had a statement and don't bring them outside the Beis HaMikdash. So that seems like the guy that wouldn't have taught me anything. What makes me learn anything from that? Only the fact that they're similar words. It says taleh and taseh, both psukim, both by negative and positive. Like Rabbi Lezer, we should be able to learn from one to the other. Why? Anyway, without the similar words, the similar should be extraneous. Rabbi Eliezer holds you can go from a lav to an asay. So you should be able to go from the lav of Yishomer to the asay of Sham Ta'aleh, and vice versa. Why does he need the words the same in both psukim? That should be not necessary, as long as he has between the two psukim going from one to the other the lo sasem lamed al say, right? The cloud called the Hashem yotze min cloud lamed lo made al atzma yotze lamed al cloud kol yotze. Why doesn't he use that? So it says Ma vele Rabbi Eliezer. What is Rabbi Eliezer? It says Rabbi Yochanan. It's a typo. Shvei Ma vele Rabbi Eliezer. What does Rabbi Eliezer taco do with this? I'll tell you what Rabbi Eliezer does with this. You're asking a very good question. Again, the question Rabbi Eliezer is: if you hold a lav can reveal something about the asay, I don't need the etymological connection between aliyah and asiyah, which is stated by the asay, and aliyah and asiyah, which are stated by the lav. That connection is superfluous if I hold that the derivation is some other kind. Okay? What should be the other kind of derivation? A lav can tell you about the asay. Same topic, not the same pasuk. Can tell you about the asay. So says the Gemara, Taka was Rebbe Eliezer, do it that again. So I'll tell you. Shalot Tomar, I shouldn't say Kamod Temer Gabe Shabbos, like it says by Shabbos. Chafar, Choratz. If you make a hole, you make a furrow, you put something into the ground, Eino Chayav Elo Achas. You only get one korban. Aha! Why you only get one korban? Why only one? Because what are all these? Tolados. Very good. How do you know all these things? These are all tolados, right? Tolados. They're all tolados. How many can be chayav if you do multiple tolados of one of? Only one. So I might say that by shchutei chutz, by sacrificing outside the Beis Hamikdash, it's also a concept of tolados. You only get one korban, right? I would have said the lav teaches you about the asay. Yes, that you get malchus or korbanos, but only one, not multiple. So therefore, I needed not just the lav being megale on the asay, not just the lav being the prat of the asay, but also I needed the etymological connection of sham ta'aleh and sham ta'aseh and sham ta'aleh and sham ta'aseh. And that extra drosha teaches us: don't say the kavas or shachad zark ve'ela, that similar to Shabbos. If it is zrika and sacrifice einu chayav el achas, so kain tzarich lomar chayav o kol achas v'achas. That's why we need. You need two methods of drasha, two tools. You need the klal prat, which you're talking about, and you need also the etymological connection, the hekesh. Why? Because one tool teaches us melamdin, that there's a lav and everything mentioned in the pasuk, which has the mitzvah saseh, that you're not allowed to do shchutei chutz, anything which you're told to bring up to Yerushalmi. The other teaches us cholkin. Not only you chayav one korban for everything you do, but you chayav a korban for each and every one of the korbanos you transgress. Okay? Now, kohen to deceptive. Now the Gemara goes on to a new topic. So far it's been so difficult? No, just wait. Okay. You weren't here for my preamble today.
What was the preamble?
I have never learned anything so hard in my life as Klal Gadol and Yerushalmi. Really?
That's what I said.
Okay. Till now it's been easy. Okay, Kohen. I mean, I'm sure I have amnesia of some of the hard Gemaras, but this is Krisus squared. Kohen the Tinan Avos Yeshlan Tolados. Anytime it says Avos, there must be Tolados. And our Mishnah talks about our Gemara talks about Avos. Our Mishnah talks about Avos. There must be Tolados. What Tamatin? I'll give you a few examples of other cases where we have Avos Tolados. Look over there. Abba Avos Nezikin. There are four main categories of damages. Hashor. What is one of the first one? An ox. Zekeren. It's his horns. Negicha u'techifa. Goring and pushing with your horns are both avos. Tani, what are the talodos? Tani Rabbi Chia, Nashach, if the animal bites, Ravats, it crouches, Boat, it kicks, talodos, the Karen, these are subcategories of Karen of the horn. Tam, it's even lent over there. Where is this? Kalim. Avos Hatuma. What are the Avos Hatuma? Hasheret, rodents, Shichva Zera, the emissions.
Wasn't Mavir supposed to be like more tied in with Neshach than anything else?
No. Shane. No Sheikh has no Anah.
But Shane is not one of the Argavos.
It is.
It's
Hever.
Shore or
Mavir and Hever. Mavir and Hever. Mavir is Shane or Regal. We don't know. Gemara talks about it there.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Okay. So, so the avos by Tuma are Sheretz, Shichva Zera. Tolodos is Sheretz. So what's a Tolod of Sheretz? Now, if Sheretz about Tuma, what's a Tolod of Sheretz? Use your minds. What's a Tolod of Sheretz? Don't think too lomdish. Think Balbatish. What's a Tolod of Sheretz? That's lomdish. Batish is something which touches the sheretz. If a sheretz is enough, a maga sheretz is a taloda. You guys are such lam, don't you? Vlad hatuma is the sheretz is the off. The vlad hatuma, the taloda, is anything which touches the sheretz.
Because you'd say sheretz, you'd think everything associated with the sheretz.
Right. I know. Yeah, that's what I would have thought too. Right. So, Told to Sheretz Ezu, Rabbi Yehuda b'Shem Rabbi Yehuda, Nachum said matafos. It's a Yerushalmi word. Ma matafos magaos. Madaf literally means, man Hebrew means a shelf. I don't know exactly. Here I guess lahadof means to cast. So I guess somehow the word madaf has something to do with touching. But in any event, more tells explicitly that's what it is. It's maga. Avatu matame sako. Avatuma is matami everything. Vladatuma ina matami el oichel mashkitzoi matami food and beverages. Kli and kli cheres, that's a mistake. Only in avatuma is matami kli cheres, not a rishon latuma, not a toloda. Ochlinu mashkin, food and beverages. The kli, and here it should say cheres, and kli cheres, which do become tame from which can become tame from an avatuma. They themselves ain't a nasim avatuma. They don't become avatuma. Metame ziva, to be metame as ziva. Now, what does it mean as ziva? It means that there are many interpretations here, but the compulsion interpretation is if a zav sits on a chair, what does the chair become? Mishkav and Moshav make the thing which is sat on or lied on enough. So that's what. If he touches, it's only rishon. But even if he touches or sits on food, it only becomes a rishon, not a av. Okay, that's what we're saying here. So, avatuma. I'm sorry. So those are the avos, the tolados. The avos are sheretz, etc. Tolados are anything which comes underneath that. V'achatin, and here we learned avos melachos harboyan chosar achas. The turn on avos melachos. Charisha of plowing is an av. Tani Rabbi Chia. Rabbi Chia taught us chafar. If you dig, charat, make a furrow. Not make a hole, push in the ground. Tolados charisha, these are subcategories of charisha. Kolava ismilacha ismina mishkan lomdu. All of us are learned from the Mishkan. Ma charisha is on Mishkan. What charisha did in the Mishkan? Where they plow shoe. Choshem litas somebody. They made plow furrows to plant the dye plants for the Mishkan. Kami yachush v'yachayiv. How much do you have to plow in order to be chayiv? According to some shirahs, you're not allowed to plow. We're talking about Shabbos. So I'll look. What's the shiur of Charish on Shabbos? So
that's ridiculous. The Charisha of
usually I hear that from my right.
I know, but the Charisha
in the morning.
But the Charisha of the Mishkan was that was the Charisha is the plowing done on the field.
What did you think Charisha was in the Mishkan?
To plant the samar in it?
What else would it be?
I have no idea. That's what the Bavli says too.
I don't know if the Bavli, I don't think Bavli discussed it, but it's obvious. What else could it be?
I always thought it was to make.
Then Charisha wouldn't be the Av. Chafiro would be the Av. The Itza. Just because you never thought about it before, it doesn't mean it's wrong.
You're right. I never thought about it.
Yeah.
We automatically assume you can't.
Take back the ridiculous.
Probably should.
All right. All right. Did you call, by the way, for the thing today? For the Yerushalmi?
I didn't.
All right. Macharisha Isa Mishkan Shir Chosh Delita Samoni. Kam Yachrosh V'Yachai. What's the minimum share for Charisha? So Ramasi Omar Kedelita Krisha. In order to plant a hap, which is a very small plant. Ravacha Bar Yaakov Amar said, it doesn't say Amar here. Ravacha Bar Rav Kedelita Zachrusha Shochita, to plant the narrow side, literally the male part, but the narrow side of a grain of wheat in the ground. Tamati, we learned over there.
I'm still disturbed by that Harisha. It's like a tangential. It's not an essential part of what was. All right, let's go ahead. But it just strikes me as being not an essential act as part of the Mishkan. It leads to the essential act of taking the dyes and doing something with them. But it's a few steps removed.
Emudei Yerushalmi means some various different things, but it doesn't mean that anybody argues.
Now you have somebody who does.
Okay. You come up with something. You plant 2 squashes, you're chayiv. Zord luim, 2 pumpkin shnayim chayiv. Zord lum shnayim chayiv. Zord pul mitzi, 2 Egyptian beans, you're chayiv. Tani, we learned. Chitim Modio Shtaim. If you plant median wheat, you're also chayiv on 2. Rabbi Shmuel, B'Shem Rabbi Zira said, now this is a little bit of a problem. The truth is, this is all big chidushim, even though it doesn't sound like big chidushim, because all the shirim on Shabbos which have to do with food have a symbol of shiur. What's the shiur normally by food on Shabbos? Who remembers?
There was a certain promissory note.
Close. I think it might actually be the same thing. Grogeris, which I think is something like Kosevis. Maybe it's something slightly different. But anyway, no, that would be too much. So why wheat? Chayiv on two grains of wheat, or 1 grain of wheat? It's too little, much less than Grogeris. Adesh and Chavivos, because they're choshev, they're precious. Also, like any other non-edible food stuff, where you chayiv with less, with any multiple amounts. Anything in general which is done for the benefit of the ground, falls into the plowing. Digging, furrowing, pushing into the ground. If you put your animals in a pen so they fertilize the ground. You hold the ground. You fertilize yourself. You clean the ground. You sweep it. It means you tamp down the dirt with moisture. Somebody breaks down clumps of dirt, that's all charisha. Similarly, continuing, mavre b'charoshim, somebody who cuts down the excess trees in the forest in order that the other one should grow better. Like Rabbi Zira, amas amayim, shimachsher sodel lizriya. Rabbi Zira says you're not allowed to make a irrigation canal on Yontif on Cholamoid because it's you're making the ground softer. So we see that making the ground softer is a problem, and that must be the problem of charisha. Okay? Where am I? Hamasaka, removing the stones. Habonam somebody who built steps. Now, the Korban learned the Pashut way because he never lived in Eretz Yisrael. But it really means that it has to be a law of Charisha. It's when you plant in Israel, very often you plant side of the hill, they planted terraces. So making a terrace is a law of Charisha. Okay? But he fills in the cracks on the olive trees. Somebody makes a ring around a grapevine. Anything which is beneficial for the land. There's a problem with Choresh. Rabbi Yochanan said, okay, it's a new issue. Rabbi Yochanan said, I'm a bashal in the Vela b'yontif ain't a loka. Somebody who cooks in the Vela. You cook a Big Mac on Yontif, you're not like it. Why not? Because they have principle to learn Masech the Bates of greater detail. Right? Since you're allowed to cook l'tzorech when you need it for yourself or for your guest, you're also allowed to cook if it's a shelo l'tzorech. The Raisa, Rabbanan came in after it. Since with the Raisa, you can't get malchus for it, right? Right, malchus margus you can get, but not malchus the Raisa. Okay, Rabbi Chia b'shem Rabbi Shimon Lakish argues Amar Loike. Shlouta mikla bishu el achil b'var. It wasn't. You don't say tzitzis mutter shlo tzorech. It's mutter also shlo tzorech. No, it's only mutter up to the extent of that's necessary l'tzorech for the purpose which for which it was required. Okay. Hey, sir, Rabbi Rabbi Yochanan. So Rabbi Memo asked Rabbi Yochanan. According to you, that it's hutter l'tzorech, hutter nami shlo l'tzorech, ha'choresh b'yontif ain't a loke. Somebody plows on yontif, he should get malchus. Why not? Because it's mutter l'tzorech. Where's the mutter l'tzorech to plow on yontif? Is if you get this one. Where's the mutter to plow l'tzorech on yontif? Where's the mutter to plow on yontif l'tzorech on yontif?
For that same yontif?
Yeah. Close. No, not close. It won't get in a million years, don't worry. For Kisei Adam.
You're right. I never would have guessed.
You can dig up the dirt in order to do Kisei Adam and Yontif. To cover the blood of what? Chai or Anof, right? So we see it's mutter, right? So it's mutter. So I have two answers on that. First answer, it's not mutter to do in the normal way. You have to do the shinui. You can't do it the normal way. Rabbi Shimei Simi Amar Kumi Rabbi Yosa and Rabbi Yachos B'Shem Mehila. Another answer, Rabbi Shimoni. This is going like Rabbi Shimon. How's it going like Rabbi Shimon? Because Rabbi Shimon Omer actually had tzarich lo b'gufa shel davar. Rabbi Shimon says that in order to be considered
is this from Muksa?
No, it's the Melach Shein Tzir L'Gufa. In order to be considered to be chofer, you have to be able to do it for the right purpose. Chorish. You have to do it for the right purpose. When they did Charish on the Mishkan, what did they do it for? What do you do it for? What do you do Charish on the Mishkan for?
Our
Samani. So that means you need it for something which you would put in the ground to cultivate something. This taking up for Kisei Adam, what are you doing that for? To take out the dirt. That's a Malach Shein Tzirch L'Gufa. If you think about the Bavli's classic case of Malach Shein Tzirch L'Gufa is Chafar Guma Ve'ena Tzarech El Lafara. You dig a hole, you only want the dirt, because in the Bav, right, you don't want the hole, you want the dirt. So therefore, it's two answers. One is that the Kisei Adam Shlo is not done Kedarko. The other is that the dirt does not take out the normal way. The other answer is that even if it is, it's still Malach Shein Tzirch L'Gufa. Now comes the hard part. Okay? So before the hard part comes, I'm going to take a time out and get a drink of water. Okay, the Korban Ha'edah learns from this sugya which you're about to learn, this thing which they say about the Yerushalmi. The Yerushalmi doesn't hold a psik ratio. Alright? But I don't see it. After learning the Korban Ha'edah, I don't see it. I don't see it in the Pnei, but nobody else says it except for him. Maybe somebody else says it later on. But it's I don't see it anywhere else. Now the bottom line is, therefore, after going through the Pnei Moshe and the Korban Ha'edah and Reb Chaim Kanievsky and the and Lieberman and glancing at the Ritbazu, it's too small print even for me. I don't like doing it. So I've determined I'm going to give you my own shot. Alright? Tough. That's the advantage of doing Yerushalmi. I'm not pinned down to anybody since they're all Achronim. Alright. Come Rabbi Yosa. So Rabbi Yosa got up and he complained and said, Pnei Moshe adds the word Im Rabbi Acha. Got upset at Rabbi Acha. Now remember, what did Rabbi Acha say? Rabbi Acha said, by Yontif, Kisei Adam is not Hutter L'Tzorech. Why? Because it's a Melacha Shein Tzich L'Gufa. You're not doing it for the normal thing. The normal thing is for the whole year you want the dirt. Okay, Amalei. Atamarta Mil Sada. You said this. How can you possibly say this? But lo chein Amar Rabbi Yochanan. Did Rabbi Yochanan say, Divrei Meir Nevei Meir Esrim Ba'avad Dvarim? There are 24 things in Shas. Mikulei Beis Shammai, Mikulei Beis Hillel. Beis Shammai is Mekel, and Beis Hillel is Machmir. V'zeh Echad Mechad Mehem, and this is one of them. One of them is that Beis Hillel says you can't do Kisui Adam on Yontif, and Beis Shammai says you can, as long as you do it with a shinui. Okay. According to you, Akron and Meir said that 24, it should be 23. Why 23? Because according to you, there's no reason for Beis Hillel to be Machmir. How can Beis Hillel possibly be Machmir? Beis Hillel must follow Rabbi Shimon. You say that there's 24, this one should not be included. Meaning that there's no reason for Beis Hillel to be more Machmir. Ella, so what are you going to say? You must hold that, perhaps you'll say Rabbi Meir and Rabbi Shimon, Shteim Amru Davar Echad. Rabbi Meir also agrees that Melacha Shein Tzich L'Gufa is mutter, like Rabbi Shimon. Alright, so if that's the case, why did Beis Hillel aser? So maybe we'll say that it's because they have a separate type of machlokas. What's a separate type of machlokas? So the Korban explains, he says, the machlokas is whether for Simchas Yontif or Matir to do Melacha Shein Tzich L'Gufa or not. That Beis Shammai says we're not. Beis Shammai says we are. We're Matir to do Melacha Shein Tzich L'Gufa Simchas Yontif, whereas Beis Hillel says we aren't. Alright, maybe that'll work.
What's an example of such a
This case of Kisui Adam. Yeah, because there you're digging a hole, but you only want the dirt, you don't want the hole. Okay? However, if that's the case, L'chein Sarvin Meimar, back in the second paragraph, by Memar Likin, we said that Rabbi Yossi, L'chein Sarvin Meimar means, therefore we should, instead of that which we thought to say, back in the second paragraph, we did say, Rabbi Yossi, Rabbi Shimon, Shteim Amru Davar Echad. Rabbi Yossi, Rabbi Shimon both said the same thing. What did they say? They both said Melacha Shein Tzich L'Gufa Potter. Rabbi Shimon, we just mentioned here. Besides, Rabbi Yossi says back there, if you extinguish a candle on Shabbos for any reason other than you want to make charcoal on the wick, you're potter. K'chas al ner shemen, k'chas al ner, k'chas al psila, chayav, and Rabbi Yossi potter. Chutz min k'psila minei shuasa pechom, whatever the language is there. And that, what? There the Gemara says that the reason why Rabbi Yossi is makel by everything because Hillel's Melacha Shein Tzich L'Gufa is potter. You're exempt from Melacha Shein Tzich L'Gufa, and in order to be, what's the L'Gufa in the Mishkan when they were mechabe? Why were they mechabe? Why they extinguished to make better coals? Right? It's mechabe amnas lahavir. It's only kibul your chayavan. So therefore, if you're not doing in order to make better coals, then it's Melacha Shein Tzich L'Gufa. So there, then instead of saying Rabbi Yossi, Rabbi Shimon Shnei Amru Davar Echad, name a Rabbi Meir of Rabbi Yossi, Rabbi Shimon Shlosh Amru Davar Echad. Why did you say all three things? Say all three things. Rabbi Yossi. Say all three. Rabbi Yossi, Rabbi Meir, and Rabbi Shimon. Because you're saying that Rabbi Meir also is like Rabbi Shimon. You're saying that the heter to do Kisei Adam, according to Beis Shammai, is based on Melacha Shein Tzich L'Gufa. And that means that, and Rabbi Meir recognized that. And Rabbi Meir is saying that nonetheless, because for Simchas Yontif we're not matim Melacha Shein Tzich L'Gufa. It means Rabbi Meir holds of the unlike premise of Melacha Shein Tzich L'Gufa. Why is he not mentioned together with Rabbi Yossi, Rabbi Shimon, as being yet a third Tana who holds Melacha Shein Tzich L'Gufa is okay? Now, if that's not such an earth-shattering question, the Gemara never bothers answering that. Now the Gemara says, if you look in the Korban Eidah, he gives the proper use of the next line. In the Korban Eidah, in the 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6th line down in the narrow lines, First word in the line is Hey Gimel, Hachigasina. Elamila Tzurich L'Rabbanan Pshitin L'Chor. According to our Vacha, the bottom line is you want to say it's going like Rabbi Shimon. So if that's the case, that which is pashut to the other rabbis, that which is a kasha to the other rabbis should be simple to you, and that which is pashut to the other rabbis, tzrich l'chon, should be a kasha by you. What's that? Let's go back to the Gemara. Skip a line to where the asterisk is. Kotzar, because I just read the alternate girsa. Sorry, you all with me? Okay. What? Yeah. Okay. Kotzar l'tzorech asovim. This is a quote. It says, "Kotzar l'tzorech asovim." You cut down grasses because you want the grasses. Chai mishum kotzar. Chai because of kotzar. And that the Rabbanan asked, "Veinu chai mishum yapis akarka." Why only chai because of harvesting? It shows me chai because you made the land, improved the land by clearing it. What malacha is that? What malacha is clearing land? What is it a talot of? Plowing, of Koresh. So the Rabbanan asked, you should be chayiv too. Not just because of Kaitzer, but also because of Koresh. According to Rabbi Shimon, can you ask such a kasha? Obviously not. Why not? Because the second one is a malacha shein tzricha l'gufa. What did you want to do? You wanted the grass, right? So the cutting the grass to attribute to that the intent of proving the land. That's a malach shein tzricha l'gufa. Now, and that I'm telling you, the carbonator puts some psik ratio. He says it's not malach shein tzricha l'gufa. It's a psik ratio, right? It's an inadvertent result, right? It's an inadvertent result. Inadvertent result where it's necessarily going to happen, it's a psik ratio. So then he goes into this whole thing here, it's psik ratio. But the pashut pshat, in my opinion, is like this. The pashut pshat, as I just told you, that if that's the case, how can they ask the question? Lichera, it's in this case a malach shein tzricha l'gufa. In other words, what was my intent to do? My intent was to cut the grass, to take the grass. I had no intent to go and be miyapa the karka. So if you malach shein tzricha l'gufa chayiv aleh, it's a valid question. Should be chayiv both, because even though you didn't want that purpose, but that was the result of what you did, right? But if you hold like Rabbanan, but you hold like Rabbi Shimon, so it shouldn't be a kasha by you, Rav Acha, right? This whole kasha shouldn't start. So says Gemara.
So he's saying only according to Reb Shimon.
What?
Only according to Reb Shimon.
According to Reb Shimon, it's not a kasha. Right? That's what Rav Acha said. That which the rabbis asked, you should get two chiyuvim here. It's not a kasha according to Rav Acha, because according to Rav Acha, you're like Reb Shimon. According to Reb Shimon, you can't be chayiv too, because the second one here is malach shein tzricha l'gufa. So what are you going to do with this kasha? Seems like this kasha, I don't know exactly why, but it seems like this kasha, for some reason, there was a compelling reason for Rav Acha to say, I got to hold this kasha as well. Maybe this was like a bavusta velt kasha, which everybody has, so therefore, which is renowned, and therefore must be everybody subscribes to it. So therefore they asked Rav Acha, how can you subscribe to this question? I don't know exactly why it's so compelling a question on him. It was a question of Rav Acha. So Rav Acha answers. Rav Acha says, no. This is not so pashut. So this is not pashut to me, because I learned that the question was a different question. Lo tzurcha da ela katzal yarpos akarka. So he asked the question where the guy Taki had in mind to be miyape the karka. He had in mind both. The shayla is where he had in mind both. How many chiyuvim can I give him? With the same ma'isa, he had two intentions, both to harvest and to clear. What's his status? Right? That's what it says. Lo tzurcha da'ela katzal yapis akarka. Ma'oshi chai b'shu koitzer b'shim yapis akarka. Fa'afilu temer to Rabbi Shimoni. I can even say the questions according to Rabbi Shimon. Right? Because even according to Rabbi Shimon, if you had both things in mind, so the shayla is how many you're chayiv. Right?
Why is it even a shayla?
The question is how many malachos you be chayiv on one act.
Well, it's two different malachos.
No, but it's one act.
Two different malachos.
But very often we have the principle, whenever you have one act, which can be, you give it whatever it's most similar to. Because ultimately you're cutting grass. What does the cutting grass be? You're cutting grass and removing the grass. It's even one ramification, everything is one activity. How many malachas can I give you? L'maisa, we paskin, you can give two. But it's not so pasha that you can. So that's what's happening. I think that's what's happening here. Okay? So says Mar Baram Krabana. Of course, like Rabbanon on the other hand, the Rabbanon argue on Rabbi Shimon, who hold Melachshin Tzrich L'Gufa is Chayav, Mikomako, regardless of what his intent was. Whether his intent was Liapos as Hakarka, his intent was to beautify the land, or his intent was to harvest, makes no difference, right? Harei Chorash Mikomakom Harei Chorash Mikomakom Harei Kotzar. Doesn't matter. You're of course going to be Chayav both, right? Or of course the shiur would apply no matter what I meant is the shiur would apply no matter what his intent was. According to Rabbi Shimon, the question is only a valid question when, if you had both in mind. Then we ask, what do you mean chayiv in mind? According to Rabbanan, the question is a valid question if you only had one in mind. Why? Because they don't require melachat tzrich l'gufa. So therefore, no matter what, we have a question: how many are going to be mechayiv you? Okay, so far so good. Like it? There's nobody else who learned like that, just me. I made that all up as I went along. Okay? So says the Gemara, Amar Rabbi Yimona. Rabbi Yimona said, by the way, it's important, the Gillian Hashas here is important. He explains, when I say that, he does explain, or I forgot, he explains your question. He says that, the question you asked me, what's that mean? There shouldn't be chayiv too. He explains because the correlation between avos and tolados here. In other words, because kotzer is an av, and right, and miyap is a kargos a tolad of choresh. So if it was two avos, there wouldn't be a question be chayiv too. Since one is an av and one is a tolada, so the question is what the status in that case.
The second is a tolada of a different av.
Right. So maybe it's, even though it's not tafel to that av, but maybe it's tafel in an objective sense. Okay. So I think that's what he explains here at the end of Gilin Hashas. Okay. I'm Rabbi Yimona. Rabbi Yimona said. So I'm Rabbi Yimona. Rabbi Yimona said. One second. I'm Rabbi Yimona. Milayin the Rabbanon, the words of the rabbis, Misayeon Rabbi Yossi. The words of the rabbis help Rabbi Yossi. Now the commentator changes it to Rav Simi. The bottom line is, what we mean to say is the words of the rabbi what they're about to say is a raya for those who hold like Rabbi Shimon. What words of the rabbis? Demar Rabbi Chia b'shem Rabbi Yochanan. It's the name Rabbi Yochanan. Dog shesachto. It's a very famous halacha. A fish which you squeezed, right? You squeeze the brine out of a fish. Im legufo, if you're doing it for the fish, in other words, so the fish shouldn't be so briny. Harei potter, you're potter. Im lo tziro, if you're doing in order to take out the brine, you're chayev. Why is that? Because that's dosh. Why is that dosh? Because you want to remove the liquid, right? Bilgam. Now it says a few times Reb Shimoni Demar. Just take that out. Nobody says to take it out, but I'm telling you to take it out. And it's obvious to me that this is just got here by mistake, because it's the same Vafilu Tamar we had 5 lines ago. Vafilu Tamar Rabbi Shimoni. It's here over again. It's just a typo. Even if it's not a typo, I could read it. I could use a sledgehammer and put it in. I'll show you how it fits in. The way I would fit in if I did read it, it's Vafilu Tamar Rabbi Shimoni. You can even say that this is only according to Rabbi Shimon, but Hudamar that he said this statement. However, Baram, you want to say Rabbanan, that's not going to work. Why it's not going to work? Because according to Rabbanan, Mikomakom Arei Sochad, Mikomakom Arei Hotzitzir. No matter what, again, according to Rabbanan, is Chayev. So therefore, even if your intent was just to get the fish the brine out of the fish, Lamaisa, you did Schita. Lamaisa, you remove brine. You have brine out of the fish, so that's enough to make you chayev, no matter what. Okay? So the fact that we distinguish between taking brine out of the fish for the purpose of the fish, or taking brine out of the fish for the purpose of the brine, that indicates that we paskin like Rabbi Shimon. Because according to Rabbanan, you should be chayav no matter what, because no matter what, you came up with that result. That it should be considered malacha shein tzricha l'gufa, which is chayav. Okay, is that clear?
Even though it was for ochel nefesh, you wanted to eat the fish.
It's on Shabbos. Ochel nefesh doesn't make, it's not a heter on Shabbos. Now the Gillian Ashas has a very difficult question here. He says at the beginning of Gillian Ashas, he says, wait a minute, on the Yerushalmi, he says it's very strange. He says, I'm going to paraphrase what he says. He says that the dash is where you have a liquid which is integrally absorbed, like you have juice in an orange. It was in a state of solid before, and now you squeeze it out. But brine in a fish didn't originate in the fish, right? It's like pickle juice. Pickle juice doesn't originate in the pickle. You got in the pickle, now it comes out. That's why you're allowed to squeeze. You're allowed to squeeze a pickle on Shabbos. It's mutter to squeeze a pickle on Shabbos. Why? Because it's not schita. It's not dosh. Because it didn't originate. The liquid didn't originate in the pickle. So Lamaisa, he says that this Gemara can only be going to Yerushalmi later on, which does not appear in the Bavli, which says that schita is in and of itself. If schita is in and of itself, it's not a tolod of dash. So then, Eina Chanami, it's possible to say that there's a chiyuv for squeezing anything, no matter what state it began in. Okay? So that's how he explains this Yerushalmi. Again, we pass Halacha L'maisa, pickles you're allowed to squeeze on Shabbos. This Yerushalmi seems to hold that according to Rabbanan, it's chiyuv d'oraisa, and even according to Rabbi Shimon, it's still only pater of a loser, right? So it must be this going, that's why the Gilin Hashas says it must be going like the strange sheet of the Yerushalmi, that schita is an of in and of itself, even if it doesn't fall under the parameters of dash. Okay? Alright. That's it, guys. That was the hard part. Kol davar wasn't so bad, actually. Alright. Kol davar was very difficult this afternoon. Kol davar sheya mavchil zaperos. Chai mishum zarei. Anything which improves the fruit, mavchil means it grows better. Chai mishum zarei. Make chai because of planting. Hanotea, you actually plant. Hamavrich, you make a runner back into the ground. Hamarkiv, you graft. Mekarsim is one type of pruning. Mizayim is another type of pruning. Hamafasel, you trim. Hamizayim, you put on certain type of muck of some sort on the tree to make it grow better. Hamafarik means you remove stones which are diminishing the strength of the tree. Hamavek, you put dirt over the tree, good dirt, beneficial dirt. Mashi, you smoke it. Hamatlir, remove the worms. Hakotea, it's also something to do with the tree. You put they say you put ashes on it, or you break some branches. Hasach, you put oil on it. V'mashke, you irrigate it. V'menake, also you snap something off of it. V'osebatim, you make some protective cover for a canopy for it. V'chol davar shu'avchil is anything which enhances the fruit. Chai mishum zareya, chai because of zareya. Zira bar chia barashi, but B'Shem Rav Kana said hanotea b'Shabbos, chai mishum zareya. If you plant on Shabbos, you're chayav because of Zoreah. Okay? Now, planting of Zoreah Notea is planting a tree. Zoreah is planting a seed. No difference. That's what the Gemara is saying. They're both avos. And the Bavli also says this. Bavli says Notea and Zoreah are both avos. One is not a tolad of the other. They're both the av. Rabbi Zira said, Hazoimer kenotea. If you prune, it's like planting. Now, not the Zomer, it's a typo here, it should be b'shmita. If you did pruning and planting on Shemitah, Al daiti Kana chayiv shtaim. According to Rav Kana, chayiv too. Because why chayiv too? Because first of all, notea is notea, and besides that, zomer is separate as well, right? Zomer is separate as well, and chayiv and zomer separately, because he doesn't say zomer kenotea. That's Rabbi Zero's statement, right? Al daiti. Rabbi Zero said, Zomer is kenotea, eno chayiv al achas, you only get one. So it says the Gemara, you look at the Tuva Yerushalmi on the bottom, you don't have it, I'll read it to you. It says, no. He said, well, he just changed the gears and that says, Lo Amar Rabbi Zeya Hazorea Kinotea, Razir Hazorea Kinotea, Hazomer Kinotea, and the Gemara says Yerushalmi is explaining. Okay, again, so it should be Lo Amar Rabbi Zira Hazomer Kinotea. Since Rabbi Zira said Hazomer is Kinotea, so one second. Oh yeah. And therefore, since Zomer is Kanotea, serve you only chayv one. So now the Yerushalmi asks, Vilna, or according to other Gersos, Shema, says, well, how do you know? How do you know Zomer is Kanotea? Maybe Anotea is Zomer. What does it mean, Zomer Kanotea? By Shemitah it says two separate malachos. It says Sadcha lo Sizra, Karmecha lo Sizmor. Right? It says Notea and Zomer separately. So what is Rabbi Zira saying? Zomer Kanotea. How do you know? Maybe Notea is like Zomer. How do you know which one is which? So he says no. He says Hakol Biklaus Zriya. I'll tell you what. He says everything was included in Zriya. V'yotza Zmira lahachmir alatzma. Zmira is a special chiddush by Shabbos. Zomer is Zorea, right? That's what you just said in Ramadal. Zomer is a subcategory of Zorea. By Shemitah, the Torah said, you know what? Sorcha lo Sisra, Vikarmecha lo Sisra. I'm going to give you a separate issue to be Zomer. Out of left field. So that's a chiddush. It's a special chiddush, right? Special chiddush by Shemitah. And so says Yerushalmi, it must be, since a special chiddush by Shemitah, that by Shabbos, it's not. There is no such special chiddush, and that's what Rav Kahana said. Rav Zira said that normally has Zomer Kinotea, because that's what it is by Shabbos. By Shemitah, of course, he grants that it says that it's two different things, right? So Midnei Shiyotzes Mir Lachmil Atzma Ad Potro Mishum Zoreh. No, so now, I'm sorry, I skipped. So now the Gemara says, wait a minute. Because Mira came out, because Mira came out separate from itself, so you want to pater the guy who was Zomer and Otea and say he's only chayav one, whichever one it is. I think it's actually supposed to be Zriya that he's chayav, right? Not because of Zomer, but that's not germane. So bottom line is, have a lo shani notar v'zomar again b'shvius bein al daited Rav Kana bein al daited Rabbi Zira chayiv shtayim. That which Rabbi Zira said Zomer is kanotea, that's by Shabbos, but by Shemitah, since both we have separate chiyuvim in the Torah, in contradistinction to Shabbos, we have separate chiyuvim, one for Zomer and one for Zorea. So it must be that vis-a-vis Shemitah, that halacha both like Rav Kana and like Rabbi Zira that you're chayiv to. It's only by Shabbos that Rabbi Zira said is chiddush that Zomer is kenotea, and that's in line with the fact that by Shabbos there's no separate issur. But by Shemitah, where they're separated, so there they remain separate. Okay, we'll stop here for this evening. We'll pick up again Tuesday evening.